Hey there, English learners. Before we dive into today's story, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up if you want to learn English through real-life stories and practical examples. Click the notification bell too, so you won't miss any of our weekly lessons. And remember, learning English is a journey we're taking together, so feel free to share your thoughts in the comments below. Now, let me tell you a special story that might change the way you think about learning English. Hi there, I'm Emily Parker, and I'm about to share something special with you. You know that feeling when your heart races every time you try to speak English? Well, I see it in my students' eyes every single day at the Boston Community Center, where I teach English as a second language. But here's a little secret. I understand that feeling better than you might think. Before I tell you how I became an ESL teacher, I want you to do something for me. Take a deep breath and remember, every English speaker started exactly where you are now. Even native speakers had to learn their first words, make their first mistakes, and overcome their first challenges. Today I'm going to share my journey with you. But more importantly, I'll show you how learning English can be both exciting and achievable. Throughout this story, we'll practice useful phrases together, and I'll share some of my favorite teaching techniques, the same ones that have helped hundreds of my students achieve their dreams of English fluency. Are you ready to begin this adventure with me? Don't worry about taking notes. Just relax, listen, and feel free to repeat any phrases that catch your attention. Remember, in my classroom, mistakes aren't just allowed, they're celebrated as stepping stones to success. Let me take you back to where it all began. Growing up in Boston's diverse South End neighborhood shaped my entire perspective on language and communication. Our street was like a miniature United Nations. Italian families to the left, Chinese families to the right, and Brazilian families across the street. The sounds of different languages would float through my window every morning, creating a beautiful symphony of cultural diversity. I was just 15 when Mrs. Rodriguez from next door asked if I could help her practice English. She owned the most wonderful little bakery, and her pastries were legendary in our neighborhood, but she struggled to communicate with her English-speaking customers. That's when I first discovered the power of connecting through language. Our lessons started simple enough. We'd sit in her kitchen, surrounded by the warm smell of fresh bread, practicing basic phrases like, "How can I help you?" and "Would you like that to go?" Little did I know that these afternoon sessions, often rewarded with still warm conchas, Mexican sweetbread, would plant the seeds for my future career. Throughout high school, word spread in the neighborhood. Soon, I was helping Mr. Chen from the convenience store with his pronunciation, Mrs. Patel from the flower shop with her grammar, and even teaching the basics to newly arrived families. Each person had their own story, their own reasons for learning English, and their own unique challenges to overcome. When it came time to choose my college major, there was no doubt in my mind. I would become an ESL teacher. I wanted to create that same supportive environment I had experienced in Mrs. Rodriguez's kitchen, where mistakes were met with patience, and small victories were celebrated with genuine joy. Now, standing in my own classroom at the Boston Community Center, I carry those early experiences with me. Teaching English isn't just about grammar rules and vocabulary lists. It's about building bridges between people and cultures. That's when Maria walked into my classroom, clutching her registration papers like a lifeline. Her eyes darted nervously around the room, reminding me so much of Mrs. Rodriguez on our first day together. I knew exactly what she was feeling, that mixture of hope and fear that comes with taking the first step on a new journey. "Can I help you?" I said with my warmest smile, using the same phrase I'd practiced countless times in Mrs. Rodriguez's kitchen years ago. "Yes, please," Maria replied hesitantly. "Is this English class?" Each word came out carefully, as if she was handling delicate china. "Yes, it is. Welcome to our English family," I responded, gesturing to an empty seat near the front. "I'm Emily, your teacher." Maria's story, as I would learn over the next few weeks, was like many others, and yet uniquely her own. She had moved from Mexico City to Boston for her children's education, carrying dreams bigger than her fears. A former accountant in Mexico, she was determined to rebuild her career here in the United States. During our first lesson together, I introduced one of my favorite teaching techniques, what I call daily life dialogues. Let me share it with you now. "Maria, let's practice a conversation you might have at a job interview," I suggested. Me: "Tell me about yourself." Maria: "I don't know how to say." Me: "Let's break it down. Repeat after me. I have experience." Maria: "I have experience." Me: "As an accountant." Maria: "As an accountant." We practiced this simple exchange several times, adding new pieces with each repetition. I have experience as an accountant. I worked in Mexico City. I am good with numbers. With each practice round, I could see Maria's confidence growing. Her shoulders relaxed, her voice became stronger, and that nervous grip on her papers loosened. This is what I love most about teaching. Watching that moment when a student realizes they can do it, that English isn't an insurmountable wall, but a series of small, manageable steps. By the end of that first class, Maria had mastered a basic self-introduction. It wasn't perfect. There were still grammar mistakes and pronunciation challenges. But that wasn't what mattered. What mattered was that she was speaking, trying, and most importantly, beginning to believe in herself. Working with Maria taught me something crucial about teaching English. It's the small victories that build lasting confidence. Let me share with you some of the key phrases and techniques we used in those early lessons. The same ones I now use with all my students. First, we focused on what I call power phrases. Short, versatile expressions that open doors to longer conversations. Take, "I have experience," for example. It's a perfect starting point because it follows a simple pattern. I have plus noun. We practiced variations. I have knowledge of, I have skills in, I have training in. But here's where many students, including Maria, often stumble. They try to translate directly from their native language, which can lead to common mistakes like, "I have experience in accounting," instead of, "I have experience as an accountant." So I developed a simple rule. When talking about professions in English, we use as an rather than in. Another breakthrough moment came when teaching question formation. Maria would often say, "You can help me," instead of, "Can you help me?" This is when I introduced what I call the flip-flop rule. In English questions, we flip the subject and the helping verb. We turned it into a game. Statement: "You can help." Question: "Can you help?" Statement: "She is working." Question: "Is she working?" We also tackled one of the biggest challenges for many English learners: pronunciation. Maria struggled with the teeth sound, common in words like think, three, and thank. Instead of overwhelming her with technical explanations, we used what I call the tongue peek technique, slightly sticking out your tongue while making the t-hush sound. It might look funny, but it works. Throughout our lessons, I emphasized that making mistakes wasn't just okay. It was an essential part of learning. When Maria would apologize for an error, I'd share stories of my own language learning adventures. Like the time I tried learning Spanish and accidentally told Mrs. Rodriguez I was embarazada, pregnant, when I meant to say I was embarrassed. These teaching moments weren't just about grammar rules or vocabulary lists. They were about building confidence, creating a safe space to make mistakes, and celebrating every small step forward. As Maria's English improved, I watched her transform from a nervous newcomer into someone who could joke and laugh in English, proving that language learning is as much about courage as it is about grammar. As weeks turned into months, I watched Maria blossom in ways that went far beyond grammar and vocabulary. One particular moment stands out in my memory: the day she finally decided to make that important phone call to inquire about an accounting position, something she'd been postponing for weeks. We had prepared for this moment using what I call the phone call simulator. It's a simple but effective technique I developed after noticing how many students fear phone conversations in English. Here's how it works. We practice with our backs turned to each other, eliminating the comfort of facial expressions and body language. It feels awkward at first, but it perfectly mimics the challenge of real phone conversations. Remember, I told Maria, you don't need to understand every single word. Focus on the key information: position, requirements, and next steps. We had practiced common phone expressions dozens of times. Could you please repeat that? Would you mind speaking more slowly? Let me make sure I understood correctly. The morning of the call, Maria arrived early to class, her hands shaking but her eyes determined. I watched as she took deep breaths, reviewed her notes, and finally dialed the number. 20 minutes later, she had not only survived the conversation, she had scheduled an interview. This success sparked a remarkable change in Maria's approach to learning. She began creating opportunities to practice English everywhere, chatting with her children's teachers, joining a local book club, even volunteering at community events. Each small victory built upon the last, creating a foundation of confidence that no textbook could provide. That's when I truly understood. Learning a language isn't just about memorizing rules and vocabulary. It's about finding the courage to use what you know, even when it's not perfect. It's about turning everyday moments into learning opportunities. Maria's success inspired me to develop more interactive exercises for my classroom. One of my favorites is what I call real-life role play. Let me share it with you. It's something you can practice right now, wherever you are. First, we choose everyday scenarios: a job interview, ordering coffee, or making a doctor's appointment. Then, we break down each situation into what I call communication building blocks. For a coffee shop scenario, it might look like this: greeting, good morning, ordering, I'd like a, customizing, could I have that with, clarifying, does that come with? We practice each block separately before putting them together. I encourage my students to record themselves on their phones, listening back to identify areas for improvement. It's amazing how this simple technique helps build confidence, Another successful activity is our English Journal Challenge. Students write 3 sentences every day about their experiences. They start simple. Today I went to the store. I bought bread and milk. The cashier was friendly. These activities might seem basic, but they're powerful tools for building real-world confidence. As Maria often says now, practice makes progress. The true test of our English learning methods came when Maria decided to apply for that accounting position. We took everything we'd learned and put it into practice, focusing on what I call professional English moments. Those critical situations where language skills can make or break an opportunity. We identified 3 key scenarios she would face: the email application, the phone screening, and the in-person interview. For each, we developed what I call confidence scripts, not rigid dialogues to memorize, but flexible language patterns to lean on. For emails, I am writing to express my interest in. My experience aligns well with. I look forward to discussing. For interviews, in my previous role, one of my key strengths is. I'm particularly interested in. Maria practiced these patterns until they felt natural, not rehearsed. The best part? These same patterns work in countless professional situations. I've seen other students use them successfully in job interviews, networking events, and even casual professional conversations. Remember, it's not about perfection. It's about effective communication. As Maria proved, you don't need to speak like a native to succeed in professional English environments. I'm thrilled to tell you that Maria got that accounting job. On her first day, she sent me a message that I now keep pinned to my classroom wall. Thank you for teaching me not just English, but confidence. Looking back at our journey together, I realized that successful English learning isn't about reaching perfection. It's about progress, persistence, and practical application. Every student's path is unique, but the principles remain the same. Start with real-life situations, practice consistently, and most importantly, don't be afraid to make mistakes. Remember the techniques we've covered: daily life dialogues, power phrases, phone call, simulator, real-life role play, confidence scripts. But here's what I really want you to take away from this story. You're capable of more than you think. Whether you're just starting your English journey or working to advance your skills, every small step counts. As we wrap up, I have a challenge for you. Choose one situation from your daily life where you'd like to feel more confident in English. Start practicing with the techniques we've discussed. Remember, just like Maria, you don't need to be perfect. You just need to begin. Ready to start your own success story? The journey begins now. If you enjoyed this story and want more English learning tips, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to our channel. Hit the notification bell to join us every week for new lessons. Share your thoughts in the comments below. I'd love to hear about your English learning journey. See you in our next video.